Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. February 7th, 2023, tiger painting. We're still going on this painting and we will continue to work this painting up every day, well, almost every day, until we think that it's ready for an oil painting. Well, that and I want to make sure that we do this well. Create a good digital painting as well. So both of those things we'll make sure happen. And today we're going to continue with the head, but you know what I want to do, what I would like to do. The more I think about it, as far as what I enjoy as an artist is texture. I really like texture in my artwork. If you look at all my oil paintings, you'll see lots of texture. So we're going to play with some ideas on how to create texture. And probably what I'll do is I'll switch these references around because this is our older tiger reference. You can see by the big tiger beard, a little bit gray around the edges, and this one has a lot more texture to it. And I'm gonna kind of work on this beard down here and play with different brushes to try and find the texture that I want to describe. And the one thing that we won't do is I'm probably not going to work on with brushes like this that are very flat. They're a very flat brush. They don't have any patterns to them. Even the brush tip, whatever you call it. What do you call that thing? I always forget. Yeah, brush tip. I was right. The brush tip is pretty flat, as you can see here. Good morning, Thinker. Thanks for your thoughts yesterday. Quick question. Is there a difference between an illustrator and an artist? No. It's like a subset of an artist. Painter, illustrator, sculptor. Yeah, all artists. But I have a very broad definition of artists. I think we're all of us are artists. Maybe my definition kind of stems from just being creator, like a creator for creating things. We could create a better business, things like that. But no, an illustrator is a subset of artist. Why do you ask? That's an interesting question. I'm actually going to create a new layer while I play with these brushes. This is our drawing brush. This has some texture to it, but the more you go over it, the flatter it gets. Let's zoom all the way in. Okay, that's 100%. So, will that work? I'm not sure. Not sure. Let's look at the texture brushes from my favorite, Mr. David Revoy. His texture brushes are huge. Let's keep this one huge, see what happens. Yikes. Yeah, too big. I think, one part of creating texture is also, using a lot of lines, a lot smaller brushes, putting a lot more effort into it. For me, that's how I create texture, especially in oil paintings. That one's a bit flat. This is one we've been using for the hair all the time, and it's got this kind of hair texture to it. Just doing a comparative on these. This can get really uniform though. And that pattern is still like staying still. It's not moving around. That's right, the random offset. And I figured out what the problem was on that. The random offset will not show when you're working on the scratch pad. But if you're working on the canvas, you see how those numbers are changing? The random offset will happen. This will probably slow down the brush a bit. Not much. Only when the brush editor is open would it slow it down. A little bit better, but it's still too stripy for me, honestly. Let's try this one. Same thing, a little bit more flattened out, I would say. Let's try this guy. Wow, that's like super texture. Like a super textured canvas, honestly. How would I describe this subset of illustration? Oh, well, the first thing I would say, you know, I'm thinking about the awesome people over at the School of Visual Storytelling. Jake Parker, Will Terry, Lee White, those guys. And there's a heavy emphasis on story and on narrative. And that's what I love to incorporate more illustration into my paintings. You look at Rockwell, here's an oil painter that was an illustrator, right? And why do they consider, Rockwell more of an illustrator rather than an oil painter? Probably because of that, well, emphasis on narrative, but also the field that they work in. I'm doing art for a children's book. I'm doing art for a magazine. I'm doing art for blah, blah, blah. It's kind of transitory in my mind, easily transitioned between each one. I think you can be, a fine artist, as would be the other designation, right? An oil painter, aka fine artist, and illustrator at the same time. Yeah, that offset is not really helping. Don't like that texture at all. Also, another thing is to set illustrators apart is it's very for the most part, it can get very graphical. What do I mean by graphical? Outlines, stark outlines, flat spaces of color, not a lot of transition, emphasis on working quickly and creating quickly, right? You see some beautiful paintings on ArtStation, but it's kind of in the illustration vein, I would say. So here's the other thing, is you can find all these brushes that have all kinds of texture to it. Like these are all different types of texture, but do they work with what we're trying to do here? And for the most part, no, I would say. And that definitely doesn't work. This is a blending brush, so nothing's gonna happen. I almost feel like I want to create a brush myself, but before I spend all that time, I want to look at a few other brushes. These RGBA brushes are really cool, but they fall apart when you go small with them, honestly. Yeah, maybe not fall apart, but they really lose all of what they are. They're supposed to identify as... They're supposed to really kind of display a oil paint effect, a very thick paint, a lot of texture there. But as soon as I go smaller with them, it seems like they kind of lose that. And like any of these brushes, the more you build them up, it loses that texture. I mean, can you see it when you're that far in? Turns into pixels that far in, really. So I feel like they're meant for kind of larger applications. here's a way, if you feel like you need to do all the hair follicles, you can do like 5 or 6 at once with each stroke. Okay, not really liking the RGBA brushes. Those are all blender brushes. Watercolor brushes, sometimes, not gonna get the texture that we want. Not too bad on that one. Wet brushes. This is pretty cool, but as soon as you kind of change colors, you'll get a lot of these kind of mixtures going on. Kind of pushes everything around. I don't really want that. A chalky brush, you'll get a lot of different, you know, kind of drawing techniques, like pastel techniques. Let's look at this brush. Let's add in a random offset. And I'm picking directly from this tiger because I want to quickly kind of find a brush that we're looking for here, or that I feel like suits my needs more than anything. Like, how can I get more and more texture? Just more texture, please. And this brush, I'm pressing super, like, it is not subtle. You have to press really hard. Let's look at opacity. Yeah, the climb on it is really extreme. So let's go all the way up to 50%. What I fear is that in order for me to get the texture I want, I'm gonna have to work really detailed. Just trying all kinds of different things. Actually, that one that I was just working with is providing a lot of texture. Let's see the brush that we made. That would be nice if the brush tip was of a different shape. This is more of a square shape. Wait, some of these I pick and it's like you have to press super hard for anything to happen. Good thing I'm on a different layer, because Control Z on this would take forever. All right, that's not really what I want. Okay, here's the one I was using before, and this one's not too bad actually for a lot of texture. Let's make some adjustments to it. What tip is that using? Okay, it's using... I could see why there's a lot of texture in that because there's a lot of space within the dots that you're using within the brush tip. Blending mode, opacity. Yeah, we adjusted that. I could probably bring it down just a little bit more. Flow is not being used. Size isn't being used. We could probably turn on size. Let's see, not much difference in that. It did add a little bit of variation. I mean, this is how we get texture in things. It's just all about variation, right? Spacing. Never played with spacing. Let's not. Softness, sharpness. Oh, that's interesting. So the harder you press, the sharper it gets. Not so good. Rotation. So within rotation, it's trying to look at the tilt of your brush and determine, you know, an idea of rotation. Because you have to have a special pen, a stylus, and, you know, like a Cintiq or something in order to do a pen rotation. Lightness, strength. Oh, not for this brush. Scatter. That could work if it was slight. But we're getting less of a hair feel and more of a kind of pointed feel. Now this would work really well if, let's say, you know, before I was using it down here with the long hairs, but if you look at the nose of the tiger, this kind of adjustment in the brush gives us that wonderful texture that's at the that's right on the bridge of the nose of the tiger. But the one thing it looks like you have to be careful with is picking your brush up multiple times, because it'll scatter it in different ways, and kind of avoiding the uniformity. And I'm really building it up here. Get some intensity in that. Like with my oil painting, I found that you can grab a lot more texture and a lot more interest in your art by doing a lot of different glazing layers. And this could be, you know, the secret sauce, I guess, within, you know, adding more texture within an oil painting. By not just focusing on one single brush, but multiple brushes used at different layers. Let's get a different hue right there. A little bit darker. And closer to gray as well on this one. Yeah, I'm really liking how I changed up the advanced color selector. And honestly, that just came with understanding. You understand the tool really well, and you'll be able to do a lot more with it. Let's jump into some of these kind of lighter colors on the nose real quick. Because our light source is coming straight down. So this nose will get a bit more of that light. Let me grab some random color. And this kind of darkish blue on the nose. Oh, it's more gray. Let's make it kind of blue. Darken it up. Yeah, I think this is actually working really well. Just trying to get the right hue for a lot of this. So why are you talking or asking about illustration? Looking at more illustrators maybe, or thinking about focusing more on illustration yourself? Let's back up, see what we got. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. It's got that difference in texture to it. I think I could make the brush a bit larger and really pop out some of that texture a bit more. It's one of those things where it's kind of like you see how far you can push it. How far can you go before it's too far? You know, figure out that boundary and then pull it back. I'm really ignoring that extra piece of light that we have. Kind of that shine of light that we added that's kind of sparkling, I guess, on the head of the tiger in a spot, like kind of a shock of light. For now. At some point I'll add it back in, but I feel like we need to kind of get this local texture and color in. That's like kind of thing that can go over top. So I had a discussion about this with an art teacher once, and she described the illustrator as one being paid from the outset for a particular piece. Oh. Yeah, I could see where they're coming from on that, but it doesn't really work for, you know, I'm going to get paid for a portrait painting maybe. No, I won't, but, you know, the fictitious artist could get painted, you know, paid for a portrait. You know, an oil painting by a person, you know, not a company or anything like that. And I don't think it would work with that definition of illustrator. Maybe, you know, the definition of illustrator doesn't really matter. In a broader sense, maybe it's, you know, how do you define yourself? I think that's the most important. There's a point in my life, and I think it happens with a lot of artists, where you don't feel like you're an artist. Right, Michelangelo would be an illustrator. Well, yeah, actually every artist from the Renaissance, right? And even before the Renaissance, because they were paid by the church first. You know, hey, we'll give you residence and everything. We just need this fresco because we like your style. Yeah, I don't really worry too much about definition. I call myself an artist because I show up and I do it on a regular basis. Well, I do it every day, but I say on a regular basis because I don't want people to feel like they have to do it every single day to be an artist. I mean, you define yourself in this aspect. That's looking pretty good. I like this brush with that adjustment. If I take the scatter off now, what I can do is, you know, work in larger kind of hair follicles, which is going to work really well for these areas where we need those longer hairs. And the white of the tiger that's in shadow. It's a kind of gray right here. I have to look at the stripes for the other tiger, because I have a combination of both of them. It's like a molding of both tigers together. And I'm also, you know, I'm not being too precious with it as well. There's a tendency to get really precious with, well, with your artwork, and I do it all the time. Oof, no, I didn't want that. I like how even on this part of the muzzle, you can see like the hairs are coming out. Boy, when you get that small, this brush kind of falls apart. It doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. In the larger setting, it works really well. But let's take it further. Let's see, can we bring this hair far down, kind of lose a lot of that structure of the muzzle, and then bring it back afterwards? That would probably give us the texture we want. Or the texture I want. I say we, the royal we. I think so. That's adding in a lot of texture to this. Let's take this value a bit further. Add a bit more of that white to the muzzle here. Let's go back to that scatter. I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to drop the strength down a bit more. 17. All right, let's get that nose right. For the nose, there's a completely different texture, so I don't want to use this brush. I'm actually going to favorite this brush real quick. Oh, is it already in my favorites? Oh, it is. Look at that. I had no idea. Let's go back to the David. I'm going to say David. Like the great painter. The David Ravoy brushes. David Ravoy. What I'm going to do here is actually darken this up a lot. That's pure black. Wow. Okay. I still hesitate to do that. And then that's orange. Make it a bit more orange. Actually, no. Let's go up into those magentas. There you go. Gotta remember to stay away from those oranges in a lot of ways. Too much orange and we get a cartoon look. Play with color. Love color. See how you can push it. Thinker, I wonder if with a direct complement of the orange hue with a very wide disbursement of brush hair painted in the orange, would it make the orange pop even more? With a very wide disbursement of the brush hair. Yeah, see, I would have to create a brush tip that had that wide disbursement, or at least a wider disbursement than the ones that we're seeing. There's a lot of them that have that. Let me get this nose figured out real quick, and then we'll try that. Darker, more red, a bit more closer to gray as well. And even darker because our nose is more in shadow than this nose over here. Even darker. There we go. That's what I want. What's interesting is I'm relying on that color picker less and less. Like I'll use it just for an initial like hue change. But for actually getting the color I want, I'm definitely going to jump up into my color selector and make some changes to it. So, I mean, this is, I want to warm this up a bit, like a very warm red right now. If I try and select that here, like I'm getting kind of these yellows and everything, which is probably exactly accurate, but that's not what I want. Let's do that. Darken it up. There we go. That's what I needed. Just a bit of touch of intensity there. I like how on both noses there's kind of like upper outline of the nose. It's kind of like where the hair casts a tiny shadow up there. Just kind of a hint of it. Keep the variation going on that. And then I think I can pick this directly. Let's go darker. Even darker. And let's go with like a warm green. And go back to that favorite brush because we're getting into the hair. I'm zooming way out because I feel like there's some structural issues with the bridge of this nose here. And I'm staying zoomed out pretty far so I can make some adjustments and fix. I put texture everywhere, but then I kind of obliterated that nice transition a bit too much. Yeah, it's looking really good now. Okay, so very wide disbursement of the brush here. So we got this kind of favorite brush here, right? That I'm working on. Let's go to, let's say this side where we have this kind of lighter white coming out, right? The nose looks too flat. Yeah, let's go back to that real quick then. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, especially up in the bridge area, definitely. Let's do this. Let's hit M. This is one of those kind of things that you do. Now, M on your keyboard will actually mirror your image, so you can kind of see it from a different angle. It's a fear of mine because you can hit M and then you go, oh wow, that's really broken. And the nose doesn't look very good that way. So, I mean, honestly, it should look good in both ways. Let's increase the shadow, like the turn of the nose into the side of the face by just adding some darker areas over there. It's getting too much lines. Let's pull all that back. I need to go back into my brush settings and the scatter. Let's go back up to like 27, 30%. That's what we want. No, not in the center. Keep it on the outside. I'm gonna almost basically remove the entirety of that kind of sunspot that's hitting the tiger right there. For now, we'll bring it back. But I don't want that to distract away from the structure that I'm trying to put in. Verified Misfit, good morning. My first time being able to catch a stream. You must have gotten up really early. Or late. I don't really know where you're at, so it could be either one of those. But thank you for joining. Appreciate it. I will say that my streams aren't super exciting. Well, I mean, if you've watched the video, you get the same entertainment and excitement for every stream. Oh, Louisiana, 7 a.m. Yeah, that's pretty early. It's definitely pretty early. I've been kind of starting them here a little bit later, 4:30 for me. So you're East Coast. So 3-hour difference. I'm all the way on the West Coast. Up near Seattle. I'm actually in Tacoma, which is south of Seattle. The wannabe Seattle. A lot of Tacoma people would really not like that. I'm gonna get even darker on these sides because I wanna really turn that nose a bit more. It's looking better. Honestly, look how kind of the structurally it looks broken this way. I mean, what is happening, right? I'm not sure what's going on there. Why does it look so different? But let's try and fix it, you know? Let's see what changes I can make here for that to happen. I think it has something to do with... Yeah, let me look on this side. So our main structure was pulled from the tiger, the reference tiger at the top, not the one at the bottom. And I'm just kind of looking back and forth at each one. And probably what I need to do, let's get a new layer and let's do this. You know, remind my brain of that structure. The bridge of the nose should kind of end here. And I would say the brow is doing something like this. I mean, I don't have a 3D model of this tiger, so I can't really tell exactly, but... And we should see, like, the space between the tear duct. I'll zoom in so you guys can see that. The space between the tear duct and the bridge of the nose should be smaller on this side. But I don't think a lot smaller. Just really kind of refreshing my idea of the structure here. Nose. Head goes back this way. Center line. Down like that and out. Now let's zoom out and hit M on that. Yeah, this is a practice that I don't do enough. Is hitting M, mirroring your canvas so that you can... I mean, it's a wonderful advantage of digital painting. Okay, why aren't you using it, Chris? Use it more often. So why does it look so funky when I remove that? Let's do this. Let's take that opacity down, go back to this other layer and see where our texture has kind of gotten away. Go back to my textural brush and let's see if we can keep it. Okay, hello, I'm painting here. Okay, now you're painting. Thank you. Okay, I feel like I have to press so hard for anything to happen with this brush. Like I'm pressing really lightly and nothing's happening. It's just nothing. Flow, strength 100%, opacity. Let's turn off opacity, see what happens. Okay, that's not where it's at. Yes, exactly, a verified misfit. I've never mirrored my canvas because it's immediately disappointing. I know. I stay away from it because of the same reason, but I think the most important thing is when you feel that pain, that disappointment, that's like a perfect indication to do it. You know, there's a door there that you got to walk through. And I think that's really important. So we have to change our thinking on that. Anytime we feel that disappointment, think of it as, you know, a wonderful indicator to you know, how we can easily improve. Okay, one thing I will say as I'm messing around with these brushes, depending on your stylus, you know, these brushes were made with a certain person's stylus. And if you have a brand new stylus, or maybe you put a new tip in there, it could be a lot less sensitive than an older stylus, which is kind of interesting. Like the spring in there adjusts. So always kind of look at that. But because I plan my lino prints digitally, I have no choice but to look at it mirrored because it has to go in the block mirrored. Oh, lithograph or linograph print? I thought it was lithograph. Litho prints? Anyway, I know what you're talking about. In the process of making a self-portrait print. Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, Bill Boo, Blee Boo. You have to move the curves. Also, hello. Oh, you're talking about the brush moving the curves, yeah. Hopefully you're talking about the brush. Let me know if I'm in the right spot of what you're talking about. The whole delay on the stream is not great for a super good conversation. Okay, let's get rid of that. See if that helped at all. Not really. Still got some issues there. That structure is... I feel like it's on this side here. I'm playing with the values here, mainly just kind of focusing on the values to see if I can bring that structure back. And I'm focusing on it just in, you know, this mirrored mode because it's screaming at me, hey, I'm wrong. Boy, you know, it'd be nice if there was some way, well, I guess you could. There's somewhere to like mirror your oil painting canvas, right? I guess you could, you know, just snap a photo of it and then mirror it that way, right? Okay, good. Thanks, Blue Blue. Glad it was about the brush. Those curves are awesome, and brush adjustment for Krita. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have played with the brush engine, like adjusting brushes in Photoshop. You know, the other competing software, basically. But it's not as easy as Krita is. Has anybody here used ArtRage, that editor, or that what do you call it, a digital painting software at all? Oh, that's another thing I'm looking at that could do it. That could be the problem. I was thinking about ArtRage because I was talking this morning about texture and how I want a lot more texture in this painting. And I know that ArtRage is supposedly made to look like real paint. Oh yeah, like editing brushes in Photoshop. And I think, you know, as I say that, like, you know, it's easier here. I realize that I spent time learning Krita brush engine and how to make adjustments to it. But I didn't do that with Photoshop. So obviously I'm going to have some more confusing in one place rather than the other. It's interesting how everything that I do on this mirrored side is improving the non-mirrored side, like exponentially. I'm going to start mirroring my canvas more often. Let's see. Wrong layer. Okay. I think that's looking pretty darn good now. What do you think? What do you think, guys? Does it look... I mean, I think it looks really good in the non-mirrored, but in the mirrored, there's still some kind of weirdness going on. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it has to do something with this tear duct here. It feels just wrong here. It's so funny, like, you know, I'm going on a feeling. I'm gonna get deep into this for a second. And I'm probably gonna redraw this. What's nice is that I can mirror my reference at the same time. I'm gonna bring this out a bit further, this dark area in the tear duct. It's looking better. Thank you, Bleeboo. Trying to think of where Bleeboo comes from. Il blue, Bleeboo? It's just fun to say, right? Yeah, that helped. All right, what about the angle of the nose, the angle of the brow, and the angle of the eyes? Ooh, that could be the problem. Okay. New layer. Shift B for our brush line. And I'm going to draw this line. Okay. That's the brow. Actually, let's move it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to copy this line, paste it. And the eyes should be in the very same orientation, which they're a little bit off. Paste it again, and the nose should be in the very same orientation. The muzzle should be in the same orientation. And the chin should be in the same orientation. And then I can just hit Control E several times to merge all that together. Oh. Oh, yeah. Realization. You guys see the problem here? It's just your name is random gibberish. Okay, that's cool. You blue boo. Still fun to say. Yeah, it's ever so slight. Let me zoom in so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But the left eye is lower than the right eye, which it should not be. But let's test my theory. So let's Control J, and that will duplicate this layer, right? Oh, it's not going to be on top of my reference. That's right. Because the reference is in this kind of separate thing. So let's not duplicate that anymore. Let's just draw on... Can I even draw on the reference? No, I can't draw on the reference because it's above everything. It's like crazy high up there. All right, I'm just going to put my stylus over where the eyes are, the brow, the nose. So you're not seeing this, but yeah. The pupils of those eyes need to line up. So the question here is, do I lower the right eye or do I bring the left eye up? Considering that the brow, like we have this kind of really nice shadowed area on this brow that cuts off right at that line. It's not doing that here. I think I'm going to raise the left eye up. So this is going to break a few things. Here's how you can make it so it doesn't look like it breaks things. Usually when a lot of artists will outline something, they'll do this. They just make this nice little perfect outline, right? No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to make a very textured outline. I'm just going to randomly adjust, like make squiggly lines with my freeform selection tool. And then I could actually go to select and then feather by 5, okay? And then hit T. Oh no, it's on a different layer. Okay, wait. All right, I'm gonna have to... Yeah, I'm gonna have to merge these layers. That's fine. Control E, merged. Just slightly bring that up. And then I can hit Control H to hide the marching ants so that I can see that without the ants. I think that's better. Except that I believe it needs to tilt also. What about the spacing? So if I'm looking at the tiger on the left-hand side and I drop a vertical straight down from the pupil, it's going to be a little bit to the left of the nose. And then this one is going to be way far out there, so like way out this way. So yeah, that's about right. I think our drawing's right on that. Okay. I think we're good. Let's hit H so we can see that selection. Delete the selection. Remove our lines. Yeah, that looks so much better. Okay, I'm going to hit M. Hopefully it doesn't look wonky on the other side. No, I don't think so. If anything, I just need to improve, the turn of the brow. Okay, let's do that real quick. This is going to be pretty fun. Let me get to that texture brush that I like a lot right now. Wait, is that a very hairy spot? Yeah, pretty much. We would want to change the scatter on this so that it's, we get a little bit more hairs rather than knots. And then I'm going to use the same gray we used on the left side. Actually, I'm actually going to go back to the David Ravoy brush. It's this guy. that we use in a lot of this. Darken it up a bit more. Oof. Too much. Too much. Bring the opacity down. Darker, please. So, Bleepoo, you say, I think what it looks weird is that the muzzle looks big in comparison with the other tigers. Ooh, you might be right. So, let's see where that kind of falls. I mean, if I draw verticals, it's falling. It looks like just about right. So if let's say, let's go back to this brush, which is good for just drawing basic lines. Okay, no, this one's actually worked better. So on this tiger at the top, which is the structure that we're using, the right side of this muzzle comes down to about right here. So if I do a straight line down, yeah, I guess I could darken it up a little bit there. And then the left side of this muzzle, it's kind of like right on the corner of the eye. Yeah, I feel like I can bring them in a bit, and also kind of here, let me go back to this brush. I want to change that scatter a bit. Gonna darken up this kind of cheek area as well. I feel like there's a sinking in that should happen here of the form that we're not grabbing. Very subtle, this brush. Like I have to go over the same spot like 5 times in order for anything to happen, or pick a very different value, a much darker value or lighter value. All right, let's go to M. Let's mirror this thing, this tiger. I always have to remind myself that we're not doing the lighting scenario that you see in both of these tigers are reference images. We're doing a top-down lighting scenario. And I have no problem with adding in as much drama as we can get. So darkening up these sides even further, because you can always bring it back, right? Is going to look fine. Do you think the eye should be a little bigger? Maybe. Maybe. Well, it is digital, right? Let's try it. That's good. Let's unmirror this. And as you can tell, you know, I did that selection on the right eye over here. But the way I did that selection with a feather and everything, I didn't have to do a lot of cover up. I mean, there is some kind of fuzzing that's happening there that I lost some of my texture. But really, you can barely tell that. So we'll do the same thing again. But I'm going to try and do this with the form as well. So instead of just doing like, oh, let's make this square box and push the eyes up, what I'll do is I'll make a very variegated line, but it'll go with, you know, where I feel that the brow is and how it adjusts. It adjusts in direction. Because what we're going to do is just, I'm not going to move it, I'm just going to enlarge. And well, I may have to move the eyes after enlarging them. He's got glasses on. Our poor tiger is getting old, can't see too well. Yeah, digital is really forgiving. All right, Control T. And is it Shift and Alt to keep it in the same place? Let's see, Shift and Alt. That is not even working. Well, Shift will keep the ratio. But I thought Shift and Alt. I know that's on Photoshop, it's like that. There's a lot of similarities. No, it doesn't do it. Shift and Control? No, okay. I just have to hit Shift. And then we're gonna move it back. Because usually Shift and Alt in Photoshop, you would you would be able to keep the thing in the same place, like your selection in the same place, and it would just kind of make everything larger. I just realized that probably the best thing to do here was do each eye individually. Because I'll have to pull them closer together as well. Maybe. All right, let's go a little bit further, a little bit larger. Yeah, see how far apart they are now? It just doesn't work. Z. Nope, I did that wrong. I want an Alt for a minus. Do I have those lines there? Yes, good, I kept those. Libu says, when I'm making big changes, I duplicate the layer. It's kind of a save state. If I don't like what I've done, I still have the, you know, the unflattened one. Yeah, probably a good idea. I'm going to lean on Control Z right now for this. Actually, as I'm doing this, I don't want to do it this way either. I'm going to get back to that full selection because I want them to... I want the eyes to increase in size at the same rate. So let's do it again this way. Make them larger. put them on the correct line. Hit enter. I wish I could kind of save the selection. I can't remember how you save selections, but oh, heck with it. Let's just deal with it. I'm going to select again. See how bad this turns out. Could be awful. I'll just blame Thinker for it. I'll just say, dude, you did this. It's all your fault. All right, where is that eye supposed to be vertically? The pupil drops down just a little bit outside of here. Yeah, there we are. And then we'll do the other one. Not bothering feathering these either. Now this one drops down just inside this muzzle area. All right, let's see if that is better. Just zoom out. I feel like they're too close together. Yeah, it's all your fault. And that's when you just say, yes, dear. Yes, dear. I think I do like that. That's better, but now they're too close together. This is going to be interesting how this is going to create all kinds of texture in a lot of different ways by just these multiple selections. We're really testing how forgiving digital is in this way. I feel like, you know, lots of beginning digital artists like myself, I'm not a pro at this by any means, will face the same thing. This kind of overcorrection that happens a lot of the time. That's how oil paintings become overworked. Can't get it right the first time, so you do this, you make a change, you make a change, you make a change. Yikes, that looks awful. I wonder if there was a better way of doing that. Let's do this. This is all the same layer, guys. You know, I'm used to this. As an oil painter, it's like, yeah, everything's on the same layer. That's totally fine. I'm just going to fuzz this out a bit so that the edges aren't so distracting. I'm going to definitely undo this because I hate the smoothness that comes from this kind of blending. I prefer texture more than anything. Now I feel like the eyes are a bit wonky. I think one of them's higher than it should be. Yeah, it's this one on the right. Higher than it should be. Even though, you know, I turn on this, it just looks higher than it should be. Why is that? I think it's more the structure of the eye than anything. Like the eye socket itself. gave us a different perspective on that. Playing with Control Z and Control Shift Z to get back to an earlier state. The right eye should be rotated, I think. Let's see. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to Control Z it all the way back, okay, to here. This is before we started adjusting the size. Now, the one thing is I could merge all of these layers together if I wanted to, because we have several layers. I got a drawing layer that's right here that I'm not going to touch. And what is this layer? Although we were playing with some other stripes, I can delete that. Yeah, let's merge down. Control E. That way it's a full tiger. One layer at this point. Oh, something happened with my eye there. What's going on there? Is that the drawing layer? Yeah, that's the drawing layer over top. As you can see, that eye is a bit off. Yeah, it kind of drops down a bit more. But I'm not going to use that as the example. What I'm going to do is go to my projects folder, tiger painting, and then I'm going to grab that reference image that we're using, and I'm going to do a direct overlay. Man, I know it's in here. Did I just pass it up 3 or 4 times? I'm probably blind. Maybe it's in this one. Oh, it's in this one. The Sumatran tiger. That guy. There it is. All right. So this is the head, the structure that we're using. So I'm going to copy this out and we're going to paste it right here. Take the opacity down a bit. Hold Shift as I transform it, make it larger. And I'm lining up the pupils. The pupils are the easiest thing for me to see. So you create something that is correct. You know, you say, okay, whatever we do here, I'm going to line up these pupils with my reference image, and whatever else is off, I will adjust that. And I'm doing the pupils because it's an easier way to align it, in my opinion. And see, they're on the same, I guess, horizontal level, but the vertical level is incorrect. The right eye needs to come down a bit. And then what you do is you change the opacity so it's 100%. And then you can go in here with like a red and, you know, a very flat brush, something that does like basic lines, and you pick out the important areas on your reference. So you're not tracing the entire thing. What I'm doing here is identifying boundaries, major boundaries. The tear duct, structure of the eye, and everything is really important. Maybe I'll do the top of that brow. Muzzle. There's kind of the eye socket shape. Nose. And that top of the nose is a bit more extreme than I actually drew as far as, you know, the levels. And this is interesting too. There's a curve here that I know I didn't get in the drawing. Center line, just in case. Okay, that's all we need. Get rid of that. And there's what's wrong. That's really interesting. Let's go back to the reference real quick. W. I'm going to outline this one. Our eyes a little bit more. Because it looked like the right one should be larger, but the left one was of good size. But I want to make sure that that's right. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's just the drawing of the eyes are pretty far off. And the nose. The nose drawing is pretty far off as well. Wow. All right, let's do this. Going way over my stream. It's already 6 o'clock for me. I gotta get to work. That's right. I don't do this for a living. I wish I did, but I do not. I'm just gonna outline, kind of pull out part of this eye here. Copy paste. I'm not even going to pull it out of the image itself. What I'm going to do is, I know it needs to be larger. So right there. Maybe a bit larger, yeah. Bit more. Now, why am I like worrying about this so much? Is because I have big plans for this. It's going to go into an oil painting. And I've kind of been saying that. Maybe you guys already know. And you're like, yes, Chris, stop repeating yourself. Whatever error I can fix here is less errors that I need to fix on the oil painting. I'm going to save so much more time later by fixing all this right now. Kind of looking at, okay, the white does kind of come down all the way into this. Keeping it gray because I feel like that's, well, I could probably lighten this up a bit. Let's do that selection. Lighten it up a bit. Bit more. Keeping it gray down here because there's a turn that I want to happen. A turn in the brow. But it doesn't have to be that extreme, I think. And at the bottom of that, I outlined, you see where I got the white of that part of the eye incorrect. So this was a lot larger. The black part of the eye, the eyeshadow, the makeup that we see all the time. That would be really cool if you talk to a makeup artist and be like, yeah, that originated from, you know, the tiger, you know, how we outline the eyes now. So the digital version is somewhat of a test draft. No, it's still its own piece, but it doesn't have to just be that, you know. It is one, I guess. Yes, and is the answer to that. Yes, it's a test. It's a figuring out. It's a understanding that we're generating. It's all that in one, and hopefully it can be its own digital piece that stands on its own. You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be both. All right, now let's look at the left eye. I'm going to turn that back up. I'm going to do the exact same over here. Grabbing all of this gray area, the dark area. Gonna have to make a lot of adjustments to this one. Copy, paste. So what I don't do here, or what I'm not doing, what you see a lot of, which is totally fine. Yeah, there's the digital art has kind of originated within like industries for creating movies, books, films, things like that. And it has always been and has started out as this kind of means for doing things quickly. We're dealing with a forgiving medium, right? In a production environment. But I'm not using it that way. I mean, it still has its forgiving aspects to it that are really nice. But I'm using it more for like the preparation of a much larger canvas. It's if you think about back in like the 1400s and before, I think even before that, Michelangelo, I can't remember when he was alive. Leonardo, Michelangelo, all those guys. No, those two guys at least. They would do frescoes. And if you know anything about fresco, it's basically wet plaster that you paint into, and you have a time limit. Like, you can only work on small sections at a time. You have to paint into the fresh, wet plaster. If you don't, it's basically going to fall apart, you know, with time. You're painting into the plaster. And before they even got started, before they even got close to getting started, they would create a cartoon. And it was actually called a cartoon of, you know, the drawing, the painting that they were going to do in the plaster. And a lot of preparation work would go into that. And it wasn't just one drawing. It was, you know, how many ever they needed to do to understand and get it right, so that the master, and yeah, there was masters at that point, the master could actually paint it quickly without, I need to be able to know the entirety of this, body, everything that's going to go into this work so I can paint it there quickly while this is drying. Still got some fixing to do. I like the texture on the nose. Dog boy, greetings. Pupils could be a bit bigger. Yeah, I think you're right. All right, so I am way past my stream. I'm going to be late for work if I don't get going. Sorry about that, dog boy. I know you just came in, but thank you for showing up. Like over an hour and a half into the stream, but we were figuring out a lot of issues with the drawing on the tiger head. Watch the video afterwards, and as I go into the mirror mode, I'm immediately disappointed also. And I'm pretty sure the drawing is good now with the kind of tracing overlay that we did to check everything. I just need to make some adjustments to, these values and subtle areas of transition values within there. But the texture, really happy with what I've done with the texture today. And we will continue on with this tomorrow. So that being said, same time tomorrow, 4:30 for me, 7:30 for Bleeboo or Verified Misfit. I forget who I talked to. Anyways, East Coast, 7:30 a.m. if you get up that early. And if not, just watch the video afterwards. If you want all the materials from all, 35? No, 30, it's either 36 or 37 sessions of this live stream. I've got all the materials up there on my Gumroad. Just see the link in the description. If you want 50% off that $10 for that crazy amount of content, use the code CB50OFF and you'll get it for $5. And it continues to grow. Every Sunday or every weekend, I'll add up 7 more days of Krita files and downloads that I give you, like all kinds of stuff. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks guys for joining, and I will see you tomorrow.